appropriate main diagnosis with stage and severity. And then having a number which was 8, we start from index case and move as much as random number. We go back to identify our controls, and more recent cases were chosen to minimize recall bias. Study instrument was developed and adopted from different studies that were conducted to identify risk factors of anemia or iron deficiency anemia, and had following domains. Institutional Review Board of American University of Armenia reviewed and approved study protocols, and oral informed consent was obtained from each participant. In order to collect the data, we conducted medical record review for identifying cases and controls and obtain required information. Afterwards, telephone interviews were conducted with the mothers of children included in the study, and interviews conducted by student investigator and trained interviewers. Overall, there were 8 interviewers. Single entry was done for data entry, and therefore then data cleaning to identify outlying values and percentages. Dependent variable in our analysis was presence of iron deficiency anemia, and independent variables were all known risk factors that we were able to measure. For analysis, we conducted descriptive analysis to find characteristics of our participants. For comparing means and proportions, we conducted independent sample t-test and chi-square test. Then bivariate logistic regression analysis to find the association between each independent variable and outcome variable. And in the end, we did multiple logistic regression to find independent risk factors while controlling for others. As a result, we sampled 90 cases and 232 controls, from whom we contacted 73 and 147 participants respectively, and in the end we had 71 cases and 142 controls, and overall sample size was 213. Here we see that based on our descriptive analysis, we see that our cases are younger than controls, and there are more males among cases than controls. Mothers of cases reported low birth weight more frequently than controls. Also, the maternal anemia proportion was higher among cases. Meat in weekly diet and citrus fruit in diet were reported frequently among controls. Also, cases had lower food security, and food cost as a barrier to iron-rich food is mentioned mainly among cases. Socioeconomic status score was higher among controls, and food diversity score also was higher among controls. Cases reported using biofuel more frequently than controls. We adjusted all the variables for age, because from the literature we know that the age is a major confounder, and from the analysis we got all the statistically significant variables and put in multivariate analysis in order to find all independent variables. So we come up with a final model which includes child's age, child's birth weight, which are protective, child's cow's milk as a risk factor, number of cups per day consumed by child as a risk factor. Child food security, food diversity score is a protective factor also, and previous history of anemia is a risk factor. Those children who had anemia before have higher risk of having anemia again. And the sweet in child diet has also a protective effect. Strengths of our study. This is the first study that was conducted in Armenia in order to find risk factors of iron deficiency anemia among children, and diagnosis was made by student investigator using robust laboratory criteria. But our study also have limitations such as limited generalizability. Also our controls, as I mentioned, were not checks for serum fertility, which means that the controls could have also iron deficiency. Recall bias, which is result of our instrument because parents had to recall the diet of their children. Also, we come up with a small sample size, and we calculated power for identifying 15% difference in proportion, which is 0.65. So to conclude our results, we find that some independent predictors of iron deficiency anemia. Child's younger age, higher cow's milk consumption per day, lower birth weight, low food security, and previous history of anemia are risk factors, and these findings are consistent with the literature. And also we had an unexpected finding, which is lower weekly frequency of sweet consumption is a risk factor, or the opposite. The higher consumption is a protective factor. And from literature we have found a scientific paper which proved that sugar increases iron bioavailability in intestinal cells. So it somehow could be the answer of this finding. And we come up with recommendations. As the younger children were at higher risk of anemia, we recommend to do preventive interventions on younger age groups of children. Also, the mothers of children with low birth weight should receive nutritional counseling on iron sufficient diet to prevent anemia. And dietary recommendation guidelines, which include discouraging early introduction of cow's milk and to reduce the frequency, increase food diversity, including all important diet items with appropriate frequency. Also, further investigation for association between sweet consumption and iron deficiency anemia.
Thank you, Anush. I wonder how big the recall bias was. So what was the time period that mothers had to go back to remember their children's diets?
The maximum period between their hospitalization and interview was 1 year and 3 months. So they had to recall maximum days. But for controls it was less because mainly as we have chosen more recent cases. For controls, recall bias was minimized even.
So controls may have had more accurate. And you said they had to remember the diet in the last 12 months. How was the questionnaire?
Not in the last 12 months, but before the hospitalization, their diet. For example, we asked how many times child consumed cow's milk per week. For cow's milk, it was per day. So before the hospitalization, food frequency, just weekly frequency.
Weekly frequency in general. It was not last week or last certain period of time.
In general.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a suggestion and question. You mentioned among your weaknesses recall bias, but I would suggest that you specify that there was a probability of differential recall bias. So for the controls, this was less of an issue. For cases, it was more of an issue. So at least in the paper, identified that.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned that you tried to do some kind of group matching. Could you please clarify that a little bit more for our audience?
As we know, some acute infection diseases or other chronic conditions could cause anemia, and to avoid this effect, we have chosen children in cases and controls with the same main clinical diagnosis, with the same stage and severity. And we did for those children who were diagnosed for diagnosis other than iron deficiency anemia.
Did you check for collinearity between
Yeah,
your
we checked.
variables?
Yes, we checked and didn't find any significant collinearity.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments? Kim, you came late, but do you have a comment? Yeah, this is one of your favorite topics. Uh, so I was very interested in your findings about sweet consumption, and thank you for finding the potential explanation for that. Highlight that because it might be interesting for the international audience.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to say thank you everyone and everything for this opportunity to be here today. Thank you, Life, for this opportunity to be in AUA, study in AUA, and today present a scientific research topic here. I would like to say thank you my advising team, Dr. Anahit Demircan, which was very open to my questions and answer to my questions very in friendly way. And I would like to say thank you to Dr. Armenian for his expert opinion and philosophic approach to the research. Christina Agopian, which is the most encouraging person and advisor, and she was the one who keeping say that everything is doable. I would like to say thank you all the faculty members and Dean Vartvi Petrosyan for her parental attitude towards the students. Also, I would like to thank my family, my parents and my brothers for their support and my friends who have their contribution to conducting this study. I would like to say everyone thanks, but especially to Zara Rakelian, Tatevik Mosisyan, Narina Vasardyan, Vahek Kermoyan,